Caddy, this is a regime that is just struggling to survive, to keep the Ayatollah alive right now. Their military hierarchy has been gutted at the top. Their nuclear scientists killed. Politicians, those closest to the Ayatollah, also killed. I mean, it has been a savage 10 days for the Iranians. So their options seem limited at best. I do want to really quickly touch on, though, the efforts of diplomacy. They were given 60 days, and you get a feeling that they thought Donald Trump was bluffing. They feel like American presidents are always bluffing. They were given 60 days, and about 58, 59 days into that, Donald Trump talked to the Israelis, to Netanyahu, and said they may not make the deadline. And so the strikes began. But then even this past week, word out of the White House was that Donald Trump would actually go to Turkey and meet with the Iranians if they were willing to do that. And they still were not willing to strike a deal.
Yeah, so the diplomatic route ran out for the White House. The military route became the possibility that previous presidents have ignored for the reasons that David and Kareem have just laid out. We don't exactly know where this ends. I was told over the weekend by a senior American general that there are two myths of war. One is that wars can be short, and the other is that war can be fought from a distance. So let's see where this actually goes, and let's look more now at the military consequences of this and bring in retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. His military career, of course, spans more than 3 decades of service, including as the commanding general of the U.S. Army Europe and the 7th Army General. Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, let's just start. Now we are 2 days in. Obviously, we don't have all of the information. We're going to have to be assessing the damage. But what are you looking at this morning in terms of the military component of this, how the operation went? And to Kareem's point, what are the things that you're worried about, including that uranium that we don't know where it is?
Okay, I'll start off by complimenting you on whoever you're talking to about wars can't be short or know what's going to happen. What I'd say is in any kind of military action, you're looking at 3 things: the action, the reaction by the enemy, and then the counteraction, what you're going to do first. You and Jonathan Lemire both pointed out early this morning that this is first of all, hope is not a method. I think you said that in international relations, and the enemy gets a vote. Jonathan said that. How much damage has been done? What will the Iranians do? What is the next thing we will do in terms of our counteraction? Those are all the things that the military considers and should be part of the planning. What I'm very concerned about is it doesn't seem like this has been a long-term plan by the administration. Everyone is suggesting it's a one and done, that we didn't mean to start a war. This was not a war against Iran. It most definitely is by international law, because you're attacking another country with 125 aircraft and a bunch of Tomahawk missiles from submarines. That seems like an attack to me, and it seems like the start of a war. So what we're seeing is the reaction phase from Iran. What will they do next? Will it be today, or will it be next week or next year, has been pointed out? They have many options. There are some that say Iran depends on missiles, militias, and terrorists. But they also have more in their kit bag, such as asymmetric attacks with cyber. That's my biggest concern. With sleeper cells, that's also a big concern. With what they might do in the Gulf to the 40,000 U.S. troops positioned in various locations around the Gulf. What might they do with economic issues, turning ships around from the oil refineries? All of those things are options that Iran has. Not all of them are good options, but they can play them. And I'm not sure that the U.S. government has talked about the what-ifs. And what I mean by that is in the planning cycle, you always say, what if this happens? What if they do this? How do we then counteract to that? So with a lot of talk over the weekend after the strike a pretty good strike, actually, a very brilliant kinetic strike by a lot of forces. The question now becomes is, do we use diplomacy, more military actions, more economic sanctions, more information warfare? How do we get allies involved that aren't going to be too readily available based on what the president has done to many of our allies in the past? And how do we bring the information on the world stage to counter all of this? Those are all of my concerns right now.
So General, and we've talked about this before, I remember hearing your commentary as Russian troops were moving toward Ukraine, and you commented on what a ragtag operation it was, even moving their tanks and divisions into position, going through towns, and the lack of discipline. Now go to the other side of that coin, and you talked about what a brilliant strike it was. Talk about the U.S. military and how it really does. It stands. This is not cheerleading on my part. I think any military person in the world would say the same thing. The United States and its capabilities and its power and in its discipline right now certainly seems to be second to none.
It is, Joe. It's awesome. The power of the military, the power of the people in the military is incredible. We can do anything we're asked to do. The question then becomes, though, much like the Ukraine-Russian war that you just talked about, is what's the support for the military? Does the military trust the government? Do the people in the country trust the military? Those are the things that I'm concerned about right now. When you go to war, when you conduct an attack like this, Congress isn't involved. The vote of the individual congressman is not important. What is important is that vote represents what the people feel and how they support a military action. So that combination of the so-called Clausewitzian trilogy of the strength of the military, the trust in the government, and the support of the people is a three-legged triangle, and all three of those legs have to be in place for a great military operation. So yeah, we've got a great military. Are the people behind us, and is the government doing the right things, are the things that I'm looking at.
All right, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, as always, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, and Kareem, we are rightfully asking